started that rebuild.
I saw that was training.
There's some 4-inch stacks that go in the basement. Some guys are over there, we're laying out the whole building when they're filling it, and the floors are like, got checked and they got a layer of asbestos in it.
Dock and pay.
And they're all wood.
Well, you ain't gonna.
Oh, that's wow. Well, new built those.
Am I in the right spot?
How you doing, Dwayne?
Well, yeah, they were designed for warehousing. I mean, that's.
Okay, it's Tuesday, August 13th, 2019 at 3 p.m. I am calling the Building Advisory Board meeting to order. Roll call, starting on the right-hand side, state your name.
Ryan White.
Mike McCall.
Mark Frazier.
David Miller.
Dwayne Grace.
Scott Kraus.
Rick Walters.
Approval of the minutes. Approval of the minutes of the July 9, 2019 regular meeting.
I move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes approved. New business, I refer to staff.
All right. This is a little bit new format for the agenda, if you guys notice a difference or not, but we kind of split out how we do new business and do public hearing, quasi-judicial, legislative, and none of those in this one, but we do have some administrative items to take care of in this one. Number 3.11 is discussion on how continuing education credits apply to attendance of BAB meetings. Per section 8-175 of the Salina Municipal Code, 6 hours per year or 18 hours every 3 years of continuing education is required for ABC contractors and skilled trades contractors license renewals in the city. Half of these hours must be specifically related to the codes adopted by the city. These requirements were put in place to ensure our local licensed contractors are well educated and kept up to date with the codes that the city has adopted. It is the responsibility of the building code official to decide whether or not certain educational opportunities meet the intent of this section. In 2006, when contractor licensing and continuing education came into effect, the building officials' policy was that half hour of credit would be given for every hour spent in a BAB meeting. During code hearings soon after that, the policy changed to 1-to-1 ratio because of the in-depth nature of the conversation that was going on. Many of the BAB meetings will still apply toward continuing education code credit, as most meetings are centered around code-related topics, but not all of them are specifically about code issues, and as such will not be given credit. Giving continuing education credit for BAB meetings is not centered on code issues defeats the intent of this Salina Municipal Code requiring it. A note will be placed on future agendas letting the public know which meetings will be counted for code and which ones will not. City staff will begin starting this fall offering local and annual continuing education opportunities to offset the meeting credits that would normally have been given here, working more closely to meet the intent of the local code education requirement. The city's plan is to provide 6 hours of continuing education per year and rotate the content on a 3-year rotation. The focus will be on electrical code, building code, residential code, and ADA accessibility codes, but that can be adjusted as needs arise. Notification will be sent out soon for classes that will be in early October. Was just talking with some educators today. It'll be in the first 2 weeks of October, somewhere in there, and will be on residential wall bracing and residential wiring. But in summary, sometimes some of the meetings, like this one per se, isn't really based on code and things like that, so it didn't really feel it appropriate to be giving out CEUs for people to come to these if they're not getting any code education. So I don't know if you guys have any discussion on this or questions or anything.
It's the only pay we're getting.
Like I say, a lot of them will, but there are some, like this one that are mainly, informational, business stuff that we have to go over, things like that, that don't really apply. So, but like I said, it's been, there's been a lapse in the last few years. I know the city's only put on a couple in the last few years of continuing education, but we're going to be more vigilant about that and do it every year. So there will be 18 hours offered in 3-year periods for everyone if you want to do it locally. If you want to go elsewhere, I know that, IAPMO offers, quite a bit too. That's why we're not focusing quite as much probably on plumbing and mechanical stuff, because you guys do, they do quite a bit of it. But we can, but right now we're going to be focused on the building codes and electrical, since there hasn't been too much of that around here.
Could I ask a question to the public? How many of you guys are here primarily for continuing education credits? That's going to kill our audience.
Well,
We might need their input some. Anyway,
Like you said,
they will.
for the most part, they will be counted, but not always. I just kind of wanted to put that out there, that not every meeting is going to be for credit, and
We
it'll
don't do
stay on
any
the
more of these
agendas.
deals on the weeds, we'll be doing ourselves a
Right.
service.
Yeah. Well, if they bring it to the board, then we have to have to do that, and I wanted to talk about that a little bit later on too, about the procedures that we have for that. We're going to be updating that some, but that'll be a future meeting. But
Okay.
Well, what about the meeting today? Do they get credit?
no.
Were they notified that they would not receive credit?
Yes, it was on the agenda. If whoever read the agenda, if it gets emailed out and sent.
They're all gonna disappear in a minute.
There you go.
I guess what I'm saying, I guess what I'm trying to say is they made the effort to get here today. Were they under the impression they would get credit for today?
I didn't call everyone I didn't call anybody, no, but we notified everyone like we normally do of what the content of the meeting is.
It was posted on the website.
It's posted on the website. The agenda's mailed out to everyone who subscribes to it, and so on and so forth. Like I said, we're just trying to not circumvent what the intent of the code is to
I understand. I
provide.
mean, I don't disagree with what you're saying, except
Right.
that I just didn't know if they were aware, and if they've obviously spent some time here, and
Right. No, we hadn't planned on giving it today, which is, we did put it on here, but obviously a lot of people don't necessarily read the agendas before they come, but.
But it was posted on the website and the email that you guys got, it was.
Yeah, it was on my email. I knew I wasn't gonna get any. I thought about not going.
I was aware of that. I just wanted to be sure everybody had a way of getting notified which ones that they would, because it sounds like perhaps not everyone even has email. Is that?
I think you have to sign up to get the emails.
And if someone didn't have email, I suppose they could call your office the day before and ask if, hey, is this for credit?
Yes.
Or a week, or a few days before, would be the way to do that. Okay.
If there isn't any more questions, we can move on to agenda item 2. That is web portal update. As I've discussed before at these meetings, that we're under a new software system. We've just now launched our web portal. I know some of you have been using it already. I know you two on the end have submitted projects and done inspections, and I think we've got most of the bugs worked out, but getting closer. But anyway, you can now apply for permits, schedule inspections, check status of inspections, all that on the website. And I don't know if we brought any of those cards down here. I don't think we did. I can get those to you. There's cards that have the website on there where you go. It's really easy to sign up for. I did it in about a minute and a half. I mean, it's pretty simple. For the most part, it's pretty easy to, I think, request inspections. Sue was showing me today how that all works. It took pretty quick amount of time to do that too, and it works pretty slick.
Will
But
this help the permit time in issuing permits and the amount of time it takes? I've heard some, I mean, you get 10 days, right, to issue a
Yes.
permit?
yeah, for a commercial, yeah.
But like if there's one entity, everybody else can be done, one entity, you know, he may take it on out to 10 days. And of course, time is of the essence when you're doing this stuff. In other words, is this gonna help that?
It won't be any faster because the 10 days is mainly for the plan review time for everyone to get done with that. So, I mean, I think it makes it easier for a design professional or a contractor or whatever to submit for a permit, but it doesn't make it necessarily any faster for our end, what we're doing. I mean, it makes it a little bit easier for Tony because she doesn't have to haul big logs of plans around because we can accept electronic submittals now. We review plans all electronically. We have software called Bluebeam that we can mark up plans. We can everyone, like if one department marks up plans and I'm looking at some plans, I can see what they're marking up and we can converse back and forth that way. So that part is better and easier for us. But as far as actual time it takes to go through a set of plans, it's really not any faster. Just because you still have to kind of do the same procedure to do a plan review. Going through this staff report a little bit, in May 2018, City of Salina Community Development Services implemented new software management of building trade permits, code enforcement, planning projects, and contractor licensing. Llama software is used by all members of staff participating in city's various development processes, permitting, and licensing. Llama is a cloud-based software that can be used at an employee's desk or live in the field using a tablet, and the Llama Inspectors app, which has been a little bit tricky the last few days, but the app in the field, I mean. Llama software purchase included a web portal, which allows outside user, contractor, design professional, permit applicant, petitioner to set up a secure password-protected account and manage all their activities related to the Llama software system, including applying for and obtaining building permits, checking the results of an inspection, and issued permits for the status of plan review or permit, or a permit for a planning application, or renewing a contractor's license. The area of the portal for contractor license is still under construction, but all the other operations are optional. So eventually, you'll be able to manage your continuing education and things like that. You'll be able to input stuff like that and actually renew your license on there too. They're still working on getting the bugs worked out of that side of it, but the other parts of it are all operational. And I think that, yeah, and I neglected to bring the little card down here that gives you the website, but if you got them? Oh, okay. Yeah, they're right here. So after the meeting, if anybody wants one, they're right there. Like I said, it's pretty simple to do, and anyway, that's about it for that, unless anybody has any questions on the web portal and how that works.
Next item, preliminary discussion items, none. Unfinished or other business, study session.
There was one item that wasn't on there, is the appeal hearing process, and I mentioned it earlier. I know we've had a couple of them in the last year, and I know Dave can probably agree that whenever you read through that, it's a bit cumbersome how it reads and how it was just kind of messy. So I went through and I created a draft for that. But anyway, in order to use a new appeal process, the board has to approve it. And so at the next BAB meeting, after the we don't have any new members. We just had 2 of them that had to re-up. But next week at City Commission meeting, they're going to vote on the membership of the boards. And so next month, we'll go over this appeal hearing process and also take nominations and vote for chair position for this board. Right after this meeting is over, we'll adjourn over here to 107B for a study session for board training. We're going to talk about the rules that City of Salina has for all of its boards, a little brief background on that, and a little go over parliamentary procedure a little bit. It's basically a little bit of a board orientation. I don't know how many of you have been through that before, but we thought it'd be a good time to brush up on that a little bit. It shouldn't take terribly long. It doesn't sound real exciting, but it'll be about 30 minutes or so. And then, yeah, 4.2, continuing education credit isn't for that either. It's more just board training, and so not really part of the meeting either. But I
Okay,
believe-
are we,
I think that's all for,
so we adjourn this meeting and then go to
I
the,
got one more on the continuing education. So
yes.
you said that there's no continuing education credit applied to this meeting. It should still be continuing education, in my opinion, or somewhat, maybe not code related, but it's still continuing education. Not at all. Just non-code related, because we're only required to have a certain amount of code related continuing education and then continuing education.
Right. I mean, it depends. There's code, I mean, even for, say, if you're an electrician, you have to have, if you went to a plumbing class, it wouldn't be code related. It would be other. And so, but it's still continuing education and meets the intent of what it's doing.
We got to have 18 hours of continuing education, of which at least 9 must be code related.
Right. And I think that the
So they
intent.
this is not going to be continuing education, period?
Not this meeting, no. I mean, it's because basically we're talking about continuing education in general. We're talking about how to sign up for the web portal. It's not really construction related.
General continuing
anything.
education as far as how we're going to apply for our permits now, correct? How we're going to operate this building advisory board? So it should at least apply to the non-code related part of the continuing education requirement? At least maybe this meeting, since we got, half a dozen guys that showed up
Since
to
there
get
was
some
guys
continuing
that
education
came.
credits. I'm not really personally worried about it, but I kind of feel bad for these guys that showed up here, cut out of their jobs early to get the little credit.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would like to see
would
that
too.
occur today as well, because I think, I'm not sure how many would have, if they had known.
Probably not many.
I don't think any
They
of them
weren't
would
gonna
have
get
been here.
credit, and they've been here, and it does show the process of how the board works and permitting, and so
Right.
there is continuing education here.
Right. I mean,
Can we do something about that?
I
Or
mean-
does this board have that ability?
no.
what's his decision?
No, I do, but, I mean, given those points, I mean, we could probably do it for this one. But, for future meetings that may be of similar nature, then,
I
be sure
think
to
that's right.
check.
I would be fine with that.
I think
check for-
that'd be more than fair, Sean.
Yeah.
I agree.
That,
What about the board? Are they gonna get an hour just for showing up on every meeting? I think that's originally, that's the way it started, was the education.
Well,
Right.
and understand, I've been retired for over 10 years, but in the past, this would have counted for my continuing education, right?
Yes.
On the
Right.
For the-
professional.
for the-
Anybody that sits on the board.
Volunteer, it's all volunteer.
Right.
But that gives them something, the board, it gives them
And,
something.
our board is the one that judges that. We turn it in, and.
you mean for your
License.
For your license, for your design professional?
Yes.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
But-
I turn it into AIA.
But-
They
Yeah,
determine
I
whether
mean,
it's
yeah,
a
how you guys
qualified-
treat that is, I don't,
But originally, I think everybody on the board got an hour for being
Right.
here and giving their time.
yeah. I think originally it was half hour per hour,
That's for the audience. We were full credit.
was it?
Yeah.
Yes.
And my previous license renewal, this is the only continuing education I had. I mean, it was well over 18 hours, 12 meetings a year,
Right.
but.
So
That-
maybe do an hour even for non-code related, just coming to a meeting?
We should.
I mean, it depends on what it depends on what it is. I mean, if
If it's not code related or anything like that, if it's just a general informational meeting, they're not gonna get an hour, they're not gonna get any continuing ed for it.
Well, the professionals will, because somebody else is overseeing that.
Well, I mean, Mike and David I mean, you can still do that for your professional, I mean, because we don't have anything to do with your.
Right, exactly,
that
that's what I'm
trade.
saying.
The tradespeople or the other contractors, correct?
Right, I mean, it really kind of depends on the meeting, and I'll definitely put that on there prior to.
But I'm saying in general, are they
Yeah.
gonna get an hour for it, whether it's related to their trade or not, just an hour continuing ed?
Yeah, and
We talked about that a little bit this morning.
That's what, yeah, I'm trying to get to.
Well, I think if you look at what the professional licenses do, we would get the hours credit. We're putting in our time and performing a public service, and they would accept that, I believe. Right, Mike?
They have so far, yeah.
So, yeah, is it gonna be a?
That's why I'm thinking that, we should get an hour for showing up and,
Right.
and doing a
Right.
public service.
Right, it probably would. I just didn't want to, like I said, there was some discussion about that this morning, and we didn't want, you guys to get credit, but nobody else to get credit.
But that's what you're gonna do. Is give them credit, no one else.
Exactly. That's what we didn't want to do.
That's what you didn't wanna do, but that's what you're gonna do.
No, but you
No,
got.
no, that's what we didn't. I didn't want to give them credit and not anybody else, because it doesn't apply to, it
But-
doesn't
but-
necessarily, I mean, this one, maybe if you squint just right, would apply toward, your construction trade or whatever, because, we're talking about applying for permits.
But as long as it's
But if
code
we're talking
related,
about how tall grass is, that's really not affecting or benefiting anyone's education for the trade that they're in.
I understand that, but I'm just saying, in general, continuing ed hours.
Right, and that wouldn't be general
So they won't-
continuing
if
ed
it's-
either.
If it's not related to anything trade-wise or anything like that, they won't be getting an hour either.
Well,
If it's just general business, they're not gonna get an hour for their continuing ed either.
again, we discussed that this morning, but we hadn't really made a decision on that yet.
Okay.
You're gonna lose participation.
Yes.
So whether you want to see.
And that's, I think, the reason.
And if it,
Gotta be worth something.
there was another,
yeah, I mean, I'll admit 50% of the reason I'm on this board is for the continuing education.
right.
I'm not
Right.
gonna deny it.
And I'm not saying, and I'm not saying no.
Yeah.
It's,
Just trying to determine how you're gonna play this with the public and the contractors that are sitting on the board, to where it doesn't look like it's preferential treatment to the guys that are sitting up there.
Exactly.
compared to the guys that are sitting
yeah,
up
but
here.
Brian, you'll still get continuing ed as long as we're discussing codes.
and honestly, 90% of the meetings are.
Right.
I mean, it's very rare, well, it's rare that we don't have any code topics. I mean, that's that's mainly what this board is they discuss code issues.
So then, if mainly what the board is discussing code issues, why wouldn't every meeting be some kind of CEU related, hour or half hour or whatever it is?
It's just that not every meeting is.
Okay.
Sometimes it's just, sometimes it's, well, I'll give the board's annual report and you vote for a chair and that's it. I mean, sometimes. I mean, not always, but sometimes. So anyway, I was just kind of putting that out there that we'll let everyone know in advance what it is.
So we can decide if we're coming.
Yeah. You get credit, you ain't coming, right? Everybody's got a choice.
Losing an hour of work.
Right. And again, I'm not saying that they're not.
Is there any chance that you guys could go back and revisit this maybe or is this a done deal?
No.
It's not a done
Well,
deal?
I mean, it's a, No, I mean, nothing's written in policy or anything.
It'll just be a judgment decision made
Right.
on each by you or?
Yes.
Okay.
And did I get an affirmative for the audience today?
Yes.
The other thing, I'd like to make a motion that we go back and revisit the air testing.
It's not on
Second.
the, it's not on the agenda. You can't do that.
You can, well, if you have
We'll
a,
cover that in the next meeting.
well, correct me if I'm mistaken. Can he make a motion to put that on the agenda?
That's what I'm wanting to do.
Yes,
And that would
If
be.
it's not on the agenda, now he can make a motion to put it on the agenda.
Right.
yes.
And that's
Okay,
what I'm
all right.
wanting to do. I'm wanting to put it on to review that, put it on the agenda to review that.
And I would second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Carried, we'll discuss it again.
We can do that. All right. If there isn't any other questions, that's all I had for this agenda.
I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.
Very good.
Should have.
Well, I think we should get an hour every time we show up.
I will. I mean,